Badges don't grant extra rights. This is Cop Block Radio on the FPRN Radio Network. Here are your hosts, Eric, Adam, and Scott.
Welcome, everyone, to the Cop Block Radio Show for June 19th, 2013. We got a great show lined up for you tonight. If you are listening to this, hopefully you are listening to it live on FPRN and possibly syndicated across the interwebs. I'm Eric, and with me tonight I have Adam and Scott. How you guys doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Awesome. I'm actually recording in a basement tonight, so yeah, this kind of feels weird.
Nice one, Eric. Nice one.
You're down in the dungeon.
I am. I just moved to New Hampshire, so I'm kind of sitting around a whole bunch of boxes, and then when I got to the house, I realized every room in the house has hardwood floors or is ringy, or I'm going to bug somebody who's possibly trying to sleep. So I don't know. We'll see.
It's better than the alternative that we were talking about earlier this week, though.
I know, yeah.
That would have been really creepy.
Yeah, if I was just kind of sitting in a garage, yeah, that would be kind of weird. Though I don't think this is much better.
Just imagine if one of your neighbors walked by and heard you. Like, what is going on in there?
So, Sky, you seem to be the guy to give out the number and Skype.
So, I usually have my... now I'm, trying to get more technologically advanced here and keep up with the times, but the Skype in would be FPRN Radio Live, and our producers are going to have to come in. I don't have my note cards, so if somebody wants to just shout that out, jump right in there, producers.
567-314-9296, and the password is 1234, followed by the pound sign.
Thank you, Kyle. You rock. I was honest. I've been, I'll be honest. I'm not going to make stuff up, and I nowhere I wouldn't have even been close. So, but if you guys, get the chance, please call in. The radio show would be nothing without, some of the, interaction. That's why we do the show live. We could easily do it, pre-recorded and, be nice and comfortable in our beds or at the bar out drinking and whatever we want to do with our late night evening. But this is why we do it live. We encourage you to call in. So if you have something to talk about or you got something going on that you want, some assistance with, please call in and let us know.
Cool. And since this is the Cop Block Radio Show and it's dedicated to police accountability and police state issues, we got all types of stories to go over this week. So the first thing that I had on my list was there was a lady in Salton, and I totally missed the state on this one. I should probably figure that out. But anyways, there's a lady who the cops came to her door to arrest her son, but by asking a simple question of, hey, can I see the warrant? She ended up getting arrested. I don't know if you guys saw this one.
Yeah, I heard a little bit about it, but it just seems like the increasing frequency of just stupid arrests for some sort of wrong warrant or questioning authority, it's escalating exponentially.
Yeah, and this one was I couldn't believe this particular incident because they were actually coming to arrest her 11-year-old son based on a criminal complaint, and she wanted to see the warrant, and as it turns out, the warrant didn't exist.
So the police lied?
Oh,
No.
yeah, go figure, right?
Oh, man. That day will go down in history for the first time of that.
So, they ended up coming in, and they ended up arresting her and coming into her house without a warrant. And now the department is now issuing an apology, but of course the woman is saying that is not enough in this case.
So I'm looking at the bottom of this article here, Eric, and it says that the Salton Police Department will issue an apology as long as the mother agrees not to file a lawsuit.
That's great.
I'd go for the
we'll
lawsuit.
apologize, but don't do anything to us.
I would go for the lawsuit. I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, forget the apology. Oh, this is in Texas, actually. So south in Texas.
So basically, what I don't get with this is so they didn't have a warrant. They arrested her. So basically, what they've done is they've shown her child is that they don't need a warrant, and God forbid you question authority, will just take you to a cage and lock you up.
Did they give a reason? Did they give a reason why there would be a warrant, or, was he throwing rocks at cars, or, did he steal candy?
It doesn't say, as far as I can tell. So, yeah, we'll see.
I'm looking at it too. I'm not seeing.
So she said, I'll accept an apology, but what's that going to do? It's not going to take my picture off the internet from the sites that have posted it and published it in the newspaper. From where I work, I've never been in trouble in 32 years of my life from anything, for anything, and to get thrown in jail because I asked a question is not right.
She's absolutely right. I can't believe that they're. I do believe it. I do believe that. It seems like look at some of the people who at the Occupy movements or anywhere, even up in Keene, some of these people just for questioning contempt of cop. What is that? I'm being arrested for contempt of cop. I didn't know this was a court or you were a judge. They just make shit up these days.
Yeah, this kind of leads into the next few that we have. We have a kid who is suspended for freedom of speech issues. So I mean, this is straight. Was it Fourth Amendment, Fourth, Sixth? I don't know. Which one that is. Search and seizure. But yeah, I actually had a clip queued up, so I don't know if you can play clip 1 for us.
Suspended and arrested after refusing to change his NRA shirt. Today, 14-year-old Jared Markham appeared before a judge, officially charged with obstructing an officer. Charlotte Green now is the reporter that first broke this story right here on 13 News. She now joins us live in the newsroom with the very latest details. Charlotte?
Well, that's right, Don. Today, Logan Middle School student Jared Markham was arraigned in Logan County Court, where several witnesses took the stand, and both the prosecution and defense pleaded their case. After more than an hour, Judge Eric O'Brien decided that the prosecution will be allowed to move forward with its charge. A $500 fine and up to a year in jail. That's what the 14-year-old student who refused to change his NRA shirt could face now that a judge has allowed the prosecution to move forward with its obstructing an officer charge.
I think eventually we're gonna get through this, but I don't ever think it should have made it this far. Not at all.
The Logan County Police Department initially claimed that at the time 8th grader Jared Markham was arrested for disturbing the education process, obstruction, and were told officers even went as far as threatening to charge him with making terroristic threats.
And Jared didn't do anything, in my view of the facts, that obstructed Officer Atkins in doing his job. I think Officer Atkins could have done something differently.
Prosecuting attorney Michael White refused to respond to any of my questions. No comment?
No. I prefer not to be on the news, thank you.
As did Logan Police, so we'll let their official statements speak on their behalf. These are the official documents from both sides of this case. On one hand, the arresting officer, James Adkins, claims that when Jared refused to stop talking, that hindered his ability to do his job, hence obstruction. On the other side, Ben White, Jared's attorney, states that nowhere in the arresting officer's petition does it ever make any mention of Jared making any threats or acting in a violent manner.
He has no background of anything criminal at all until now, and it just seems like nobody wants to admit they're wrong.
Now, Jared's attorney, Ben White, says he will continue working to have the charges dismissed. If that doesn't happen in the coming weeks, Jared will be back in court on July 11th. Reporting live in the Charleston newsroom, Charlotte Green, 13 News, working for you.
So, I mean, this just seems like so absurd that, I mean, if you just sit here and listen to it and just think about what actually is occurring. So you have a student who's in a school, public, education center, government indoctrination center, whatever you want to call them. and he has on a shirt with 3 letters on it that represent a group or an organization that is pro-Constitution. They're pro-Second Amendment, they're pro-gun rights, and that's what this country was based upon. The Constitution is the oldest living document of its kind in the entire world. Nothing has stood the test of time longer than the Constitution of the United States. And this just shows how much of an attack it is under. Here's a student wearing a T-shirt, and he's facing $500 fine and up to a year in prison for wearing a T-shirt. So they're saying that essentially this person had on, or there was an interaction must have been between him and the teacher, and they probably asked him either to take it off or to turn it inside out, which in my opinion violates his rights to free speech, because he's wearing a T-shirt and it says some words. That's you're right. It's nothing. I don't understand how there can be anything bad about a T-shirt with 3 letters on it. Whenever I was in school, there was kids who wore like Big Peckers shirts. It didn't matter. It was just a T-shirt. Like, what happened to the days whenever you didn't have the right not to be offended? I'm sorry that you're offended by some words on a T-shirt, but guess what? That's your problem, not his. Here's a student who has obviously been harassed. So then, this teacher, and they're going to cry, oh, well, my hands are tied. I can't really do anything to a student because that's my job on the line. It's like, well, if you would have just shut your mouth and not said anything because it's just a T-shirt with some words on it, it wouldn't have been a problem. So you're the one that called in the person with the funny costume, the tin badge on his shoulder, and a gun, which is, okay, well, now we're getting back to, I don't like what you're saying about guns, so I'm going to bring some jackboot thug who's carrying a gun to come in and tell you to do what I want you to do. So, there was obviously some words between the school resource officer or, the jackboot thug that walks around and bullies kids around all day and thinks he's doing the community a good service. And the student exercised his right to remain silent.
Well, actually, I think it says that he refused to stop talking, so I guess he just kept going on and on and on.
I thought that they were talking about that he said that I'm pretty sure that they said that he was he stopped talking, and that was hindering it.
Oh, no, he refused to stop talking.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry.
So he just kept going on and on.
So, so he's not, exercising his right to remain silent. He's just talking, and he's not making any terroristic threats, Maybe he was asking questions. Well, don't I have the right to do this? Don't I have that? They don't, go into good or great detail, but this is just another reason to show why your children, if you, have them or choose to or, adopt or whatever it is, should not be in public education. The public education system is an absolute joke.
It is.
So I thought it was pretty funny when since the audio is ripped off of video, if you're watching the video, they have the district attorney, and it's kind of hard to tell what he said, but he said, I don't want to be on the news this evening.
Maybe because do you think he's ashamed of what he's doing? I hope so.
I would hope so, too.
He should be ashamed, I can't, unfortunately, and for him, they're going to say, oh, he's just doing his job. He's made a choice that he's going to pursue it. He made a choice. And if he didn't make the choice and someone above him made that choice, he didn't stand up and say, this is ridiculous. This is a waste of taxpayers' dollars. People that, we already stole their money and now we're wasting it, which, 2 wrongs don't make a right. But, essentially, what the hell?
I know, and he's facing up to $500 fine and up to a year in jail.
For a T-shirt.
I don't think the $500 is going to cover the cost of a year in jail.
No, and whenever you go for a job interview or fill out a resume or apply for a loan for college education, if you're going that route, you have to put down, okay, were you ever convicted of anything that was, I think it's a year or maybe it's over a year in prison. So this is something that could follow this poor kid around for the rest of his life because he wore a T-shirt that made someone, they should fill out a hurt feelings report.
And this is one of those things that we did talk about last week, but there was a story where it doesn't even matter that even in the end, if the charges get dismissed, it still hangs around for a year in some states before they even remove it from your record to begin with. So now that he's been arrested, depending on the state, he could have this following him around for at least a year, even if it does get tossed or, he is found innocent of whatever they're trying to charge him with.
Yeah, and they do that time and time again. I know someone that had an issue with one of their children, and their child was, being aggressive towards other family members, and there was an altercation between a parent and their child, and the aggressor was the child, who happened to be a minor, and the parent was trying to essentially control the child so they couldn't hurt themselves, and in their flailing, the child was actually injured to no fault of the parent. The parent was trying to help protect their child, and the child ended up having to go to the emergency room. The parent took the child because it's your kid. You love the little brat, and there was an investigation, and it was a child abuse investigation, and they brought the child in, they brought the parent in, and they brought the spouse in, all separately, and everybody's story pretty much corroborated, and the child even admitted, I was screwing up, I messed up, and they said, okay, the parent is not found to be neglectful or abusive, but just in case, we're going to keep this in a sealed envelope for 3 years, and if anything else happens, we could pursue charges. This parent could have, if they would have been found guilty, which it was so obvious that the parent had tried to do the right thing, and I absolutely am so opposed to Child Protective Services and the what they do with children, and they take them away from their families, and there's a lot of cases out there of children who are put into a worse situation than they're already in. Some foster homes that have histories of sexual abuse and just child abuse, and how can you justify that? CPS is a joke. But anyway, back to this poor kid with the NRA T-shirt.
So I guess so far we've already talked about the erosion of the Fourth, First, and Second Amendment. And this week we have found out that the Supreme Court has decided that the Fifth Amendment has seemed to gone by the wayside unless you're told of it ahead of time.
Yeah, no, we got the Huffington Post got an article, and there's many articles all over the interwebs of this. It's been going pretty crazy this week, but the Supreme Court has ruled basically that if you remain silent before your Miranda rights are read to you, and you're told that you can remain silent, that now can be used against you in court. So basically what they're saying is that if you know your rights and you invoke your rights without being told you can invoke your rights, they're going to use that against you, no matter what crime you're dealing with.
Why do we even have rights? Why did they talk about what? What are they for? I'm trying to figure that out. Can you guys help me with that one?
That's what I've been stuck on. I'm like, what's the point of having this list of rights if they're just going to slowly just take them away?
Your privilege to remain silent has been revoked. You need to incriminate yourself, while your attorney's not here.
Hey, they're almost taking a page out of the book. I know there's a area in Australia where it's a crime to remain silent at this point.
It's what?
It's a crime to not answer questions.
Well, basically, this ruling comes after the fact of this is from 1992, a murder in 1992 in the case. What's it? Govino? Yeah, I'm not sure if that's pronounced correctly, but basically, this gentleman, police questioned him before arresting him and reading his Miranda rights. Well, he was answering some of the questions, but chose not to answer the question of whether or not he had a shotgun or not when they asked that. And so, therefore, because of this, they're now saying that you can't pick and choose when you want to be silent.
You got to say something whenever I tell you, and if not, you're going to jail. Well, see, now in Australia, I'm not quite sure exactly how their government's set up, but I know that a lot of the gun savvy people know that in Australia they don't have guns anymore. They turned them in and they were cut up and destroyed everything, and it just seems like this. That our guns are, one of our last remaining strongholds of our natural rights, and it's slowly being eroded as our other ones are just, going the wayside. It's going to be, I think it's going to be the last right that people are going to they've already drawn the line,
Now my question is, so they're saying so we can't remain silent. So what can we do? Can we just say like random mumbo jumbo then?
Well, then you would be lying, and then they're going to get you for all that jazz.
Well, what if it's not lying? What if I just say, like, chickens? I mean, what are they going to do with that?
Now, what if you ask questions? Because you know how,
well,
am I free to go? Am I free to go? Am I free to go?
They'd arrest you then. Because you questioned it.
And you're obstructing.
And you're obstructing without, you got to take your T-shirt off. Swing it around your head.
I love how everything seems to be obstructing at this point. Now, in New York, I don't know if it's law yet, but they're working on making it illegal to annoy a cop. I don't know if you've heard about this.
I think it's in the Senate right now or whatever. I think it's in the Senate.
Yeah, it's like now everything is going to be open to these wild interpretations or extremely loose interpretations of various laws. Anything, I could yell at you and suddenly now I'm arrested for who knows,
Yeah, well, that's. I was watching a video that Adam Kokosch did, and it was the swearing thing. It was in. I don't know if it was in New Jersey or something like that, but
Massachusetts.
Was it Massachusetts? Okay, so
yep.
He walked in the police station and he asked the old fat guy with a badge that was sitting behind the counter that was supposed to stop crime. He was talking to him about this ordinance that says you can't use profanity, and the guy basically Adam, he does hit videos, but he does a great job at it, and he just basically had the guy tell him, like, well, it's up to my decision. So, you don't have a yes or no answer. Every law or ordinance that's on the books because 10 people voted out of 15 to say this is what we should do with our resources. It's all open to interpretation, and it's dangerous whenever you get into that scenario with people who have a history of violence and abuse of power and a lack of accountability.
I know, it's just such a waste of time all the time. I mean, they're making all these laws that for victimless crimes, and they go off and do all these feel-good pieces of legislation that end up hurting people more than they help, and it's just like a never-ending cycle that the books just get bigger and bigger when they should be getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about, just take this one for example. You're not allowed to annoy a cop. You get pulled over and you ask 2 questions. Well, you just annoyed me, and now I'm going to arrest you. And if I don't arrest you, I'm still going to cite you. I don't know if it's an arrestable offense, but regardless, they're going to extort you for more money. So here's another way, another tool that the police have at their disposal and their discretion to extort money for freedom of speech or whatever it is that you're doing that just happens to annoy them. What if it's your some people have body odor problems. That's annoying. I don't like it when someone comes near me and I'm out and their body odor can be offensive. Or, they have loud music on. That's annoying. Or they're talking loudly on their cell phone. That's annoying. Where do you draw the line at annoying?
No, it's interesting. I don't know. Did you guys read the law? Actually, read the whole thing?
I don't go to New York, so I refuse. New York's dead to me, just like Jersey.
Not like I went there. I just read it. But
what'd you say?
It's written so vaguely and just ridiculous, and it's actually written as I believe I think it's a Class E felony. So we're talking like thousands of dollars in fine and like 4 or 5 years in jail.
It's a felony?
Yeah.
Like you can't have guns felony?
Yeah, it's completely written completely ridiculously, and it's so written vaguely that I mean it's going to get abused. You know it's going to get abused. Somebody's going to pull out a camera, record a cop, the cop's going to be like, "Oh, he annoyed me. Now you get to spend 5 years in jail."
I will never step foot in New York again. I made that commitment to myself right now. I'll never step foot in New York again.
I know. I just drove through New York like 400 miles carrying, illegal firearms or what would be illegal in New York should I have been stopping. Luckily, I was just traveling through, but, I had had all my ammo and all my guns with me, so that was a little nerve-wracking.
You definitely would not have committed to searches.
Definitely not.
We've seen a story like that before, though, Eric, where that happened and a gentleman was passing through.
That was in New Jersey. He decided he was going to take a nap because he was starting to fall asleep at the wheel. So he does the responsible thing and pulls off and takes a snooze. And the cops, knock on his window and they find, a bunch of shotguns and a bunch of other, what do you want to call it?
Toys.
Toys. There we go. Goodies.
Yeah, some good stuff.
My rights.
Property. They found his property.
Right.
That's it. They found his property.
He was moving
people
from Texas to Maine, and he ended up being sentenced 3 to 5.
Did he really?
Yeah.
By a guy that was carrying a gun.
Isn't he still in jail?
Well, he was just sentenced like a week or two ago. So he will be spending the next 3 to 5 in prison for having illegal guns.
For moving.
For moving, yeah. Or attempting to move. He didn't even make the move because he ended up getting arrested.
Attempting to travel freely across this country.
Correct. Yeah. Go figure. You can't. You don't even have the right to travel at this point.
Not anymore. Or you're a terrorist.
I'm stewing right now.
I know it's hard.
Scott got real quiet.
You're gonna get that way.
I'm just stewing, man. I can't help it. But the question is, I mean, like, how do you fix it? Like, what can you do to make it better?
That's always the question. It's always, well, what's the alternative? Well, the problem is right now there is a violent monopoly on protective services. So anyone who tries to create a free market solution to this will get crushed by the monopoly who has all the money and all the guns, and they go out and steal all their money to get all their guns. I don't know what the solution is and how we can break it when they do have this essentially citizen-sanctioned monopoly.
I mean, as far as what we can do, I mean, we're doing what we can right now. I mean, look what we're doing now. We're trying. We're doing this.
Yeah, I think education is kind of the point at where we are now, is just educating people that what they're paying for and how crappy of a service it is, and I think it's just waking people up to the concept in general.
Yeah, it's almost like we don't even need to do this. They're kind of doing it for us by just blatantly doing stupid shit.
Yeah, I think that, it's being slowed by the lack of coverage in the mainstream media anyway.
Yeah, and I think just that this bill in New York, the guy who co-sponsored it pretty much covered it. It says that they're being disrespected and harassed, and they deserve our respect, which they obviously don't. So, all right, we have to head to break. Stick with us through the break, and we'll come back with a lot of trigger-happy police officers. You're listening to Cop Block Radio on FPRN.
In 1997, a high school shooting was stopped by a vice principal with a gun. In 1998, a middle school shooting was ended by a neighbor with a gun. In 2002, a terrorist attack was stopped by a school guard and a teacher with a gun. After September 11th, pilots began carrying guns to protect their passengers. Let's give our schools and teachers the same option. Sign the petition at defendschools.com.
Hi, I'm Trevor Moore. Due to the recent revelations that in order to fight terrorism, the NSA has been using a secret court order to spy on every single Verizon and AT&T customer, Americans have become outraged and concerned about their rights to privacy. But along with that concern comes a feeling of hopelessness. I mean, what can we do? Vote in new leaders? Well, the problem is that during an election, each candidate pretends to not be an asshole. Then when they get the job, they reveal that they've actually been a complete asshole this entire time. No, elections are of no use. The only way to fight back against our country's excessive wiretapping and data mining is to make it irrelevant. That's why we're launching Operation Everyone Talk Like a Terrorist all the time. If we all openly discuss terrorist plots in each of our phone conversations, then eavesdropping on those phone conversations becomes pointless. It's simple. We just need to work it into our daily vernacular. For example, instead of saying, "I love you," you could describe a terror attack. The larger the scale, the more you love the person.
Hi, Mom. I just got out of school. Can you pick me up?
I'll be there in 15 minutes. I'm going to use a truck bomb to blow up the Brooklyn Bridge.
I'm mailing anthrax to Purist Morgan.
Or nonsense about God's will being great could mean affirmative.
Hey, man, they have a 7:30 show, and do you think you can make it in time?
God is merciful and his love is unchanging. Did you already get me a ticket?
And those are just a few examples. You can make up your own. Have fun with it. But it's time for us to stand up and protect our rights. Because those assholes aren't going to.
Do you have a group or organization founded on the principles of personal liberty, health freedom, or accountable government? We invite you to check out Same Side Entertainment. Get connected with leaders in the liberty movement like Tom Woods, Kevin Gutzman, Jack Hunter, Robert Scott Bell, Michael Scheuer, and many more. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and our website at www.samesideentertainment.com. Again, that's www.samesideentertainment.com. Same Side Entertainment, connecting you with the education and resources you need.
Hello, fellow patriots. This is Joseph Nazari, Director of Training Operations with Line of Fire LLC, Professional Firearms Training Group, located in Las Vegas, Nevada. The fact that you're listening to this show is evidence to me that you are a true patriot and you do value your freedoms. As all patriots know, with freedom comes responsibility, and if you own a firearm, training should be an integral part of your personal defense profile. If you're considering quality firearms training, Line of Fire LLC should be your first choice. We teach all types of firearms training for all types of individuals, from the novice to the most advanced shooters. At Line of Fire LLC, we have a course for you. Please feel free to call us today at 702-242-8288. We look forward to speaking with you soon. Once again, that's Line of Fire LLC, 702-242-8288.
You have reached the 911 emergency service. All operators are busy.
Oh God, please help me. He's got a knife.
You have reached the 911 emergency service. All operators are busy. Stay on the line for the next available emergency operator. You have reached the 911 emergency service. All operators are busy. Please stay on.
911 operator, what's your emergency, please? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Last year in the United States, thousands and thousands of 911 calls went unanswered. And if you call from a cell phone, there's no way to pinpoint where you are. Yet politicians like Dianne Feinstein call for more gun control. We have one question. Why do these politicians have armed bodyguards? Can't they just call 911?
And you're listening to the Cop Block Radio Show on FPRN and hopefully syndicated across the interwebs. And if you aren't able to listen to it live, or if you are listening to it live now and you'd like to share it with your friend, remember that after the show, and well, at least hopefully by tomorrow morning, it will be available in a podcast version, which you can download and share and stream on your own network if you want. Knock yourself out. So, in honor of I love the commercial that is played of everybody speak like a terrorist. So in honor of that, I got a line on a nuke from a Tijuana drug gang. If anybody's wants to take me up on that.
You didn't talk about a jihad or anything. It's funny. It's funny you say that. I was listening to Line of Fire on Saturday, and because I came from Harrisburg Liberty Lions show, and I'm in studio. And I would get done with my show, then there's a half-hour break, then Line of Fire would start, so I would have the opportunity to talk to the guys, but then, I'm leaving to go home and go about my day, and that was the first time I actually got to sit down and listen to the whole show, and I caught, whenever we're sitting here listening, I don't listen to commercials, I'm, getting things together, and I texted one of the producers, and I was like, dude, you got to play. He's like, I just played it last break. I was like, play it again. So I texted one of the guys, and the producer played it again, and that commercial is awesome, and it's sad how awesome it is, but I know that there was a movement a couple days ago or a week ago now, and it was test out the NSA, clog up their Prism server or whatever, and people were sending this email. There was like a big countdown, and everybody was trying to use like all of the NSA keywords at the same time, and everybody's emailing back and forth. So. I'm sure that with all the money that the government has either stolen or printed, we didn't have enough effort to, make them even blink. So, but still, it's nice to feel like you're pissing them off in some way sometimes.
Yeah, it's a good outlet.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to relieve a little bit of stress and kind of give them the middle finger silently.
Well, I'm sure just this radio show has so many keywords used in it that that we can piss them off every week.
I know, it's really cool that we aren't actually going over the radio so we can say words like fuck.
I just like every once in a while we'll just go blow off a little steam with a car bomb.
Don't forget to make sure you wrap it in anthrax first.
That's right.
The Pierce Morgan, I'm going to go mail some, was it anthrax to Pierce Morgan?
Yeah.
Man, that little girl, she's doing it right. She's doing it right. Terrorist level pro, as Mark Thompson would say.
I love some of the words that are on the list, and actually the producer just sent me a whole wow. This list is really long.
I can hear.
I don't know how you can have a conversation without hitting half of these.
If you're not on a list by now, you're doing something wrong.
Bubba is on the keyword list.
That reminds me of this picture I seen on Facebook the other day. Totally off topic, but hilarious. Said that if you aren't on a watch list yet, you should be ashamed.
I support that.
You're not on a list, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah,
that's right.
Being an American, you're doing it wrong. Okay, so we do have articles, and we do have some things to talk about.
Yeah, so
Bugs Bunny is on the list.
Bugs Bunny is on the list.
Bugs Bunny is on the list.
The word football is on the list.
Yeah, the word football.
This is the best radio network, man. Our producers totally get it. These guys, they support what we're doing, and they put a lot of time and effort into it, and they do make it fun, man. So not to kiss their butts or anything, but they help us out and they make the show interesting. So without these guys, we'd just be three guys on Google Chat.
If you go to the pet store and get a guppy, you might end up on the list.
Did you see the word chosen is on the list also?
So don't talk about the Matrix. Actually, Matrix is probably in here too.
Or like honor.
Matrix.
I bet you Awake is on there.
Honor is on there. Mary.
All right.
Lion.
We could do a 2-hour show on how stupid their list is.
It's a good filler, I guess. So it seems like every week we're constantly talking about trigger-happy cops just randomly shooting indiscriminately and excessively, I guess you could say. So we talked about it when it first happened in Ohio. There was a car chase.
The one in Cleveland?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, so I was reading through the article and I'm just visualizing this car chase. So like a couple of like the statistics, it just says Cleveland police fired a sergeant and meted out demotions. I don't even know what that word means. Worstdictionary.com. But anyway, so they gave out some demotions. So there was a car chase. So you have one car being chased by 6 cruisers, and there was 137 rounds of ammunition fired by 13 officers. So this chase resulted in the death of 2 people. So it sounded like it started out, there was an officer who was outside of his vehicle, in a parking lot, and he heard a loud noise. And he thought that it was a gunshot coming from a car that was, being operated by these 2 individuals. And he immediately, got into his car, and now we're in, chase mode. And I couldn't find anything, I can't remember, or I can't recall off the top of my head, if the people had actually done anything wrong, or, what the interaction was that led up to 6 cruisers chasing 2 people in one car. And there was a witness. There was a parking lot attendant, and this witness, came out and said, I think that it was a car that backfired. So immediately, whenever I heard it, it backfired, the only thing, unfortunately, that came to my mind was the video from, like, South Compton with Bub Rub with the whistle tips. So I'm thinking, okay, here's these people. They have, a loud muffler or something like that. And something happened. It was misunderstood, and it was probably no fault of their own because there was no weapon that's been identified. So now 2 people are dead, and police, they're not even held accountable. There's people who were demoted. There's people who were fired. What about criminal charges? What about that? What about murder? Because if it was normal citizens and they were chasing police, everybody would be dead. But there would be criminal charges, It's absolutely absurd that, and I really, my heart goes out to the families of these 2 innocent people who became victims of, trigger-happy police who are, trained and are accustomed to being able to do whatever it is that they want to do because they're on the other side of the thin blue line, and they're part of the brotherhood, and they get their money through taxes. They don't get promotions based on merit. They get promotions based on how much money they extort from people who commit no crime. So I mean, I really struggle with this one. And anytime there's a fatality or there's a shooting, I actually went to a funeral for a police officer, and this was, I don't know, 8 or 10 months ago, and one of my very good friends was served time overseas with this individual who was killed in the line of duty. And this was a clear-cut case of, the cop was sitting in his car and he was shot by someone who was a bad person. And it does happen. But more times than not, the police are killed by, or the police kill someone. So whenever some officer of the law, or whatever you want to call them, dies, it showed me the tight-knit group of people who are in this union or brotherhood, and I was sorry that this person had died and under the circumstances, but I saw, I mean, you're talking 1,200 police cars, and these people are coming in just because the person was part of the brotherhood. And I know that there's people out there who are gonna, hide things and lie because that person has a badge. I've never met them before in my life. I don't know anything about them, but because they wear a costume that looks like mine, we're on the same team, and no matter what, we have to stick together. And it's just so wrong, and that's where it's at these days. It's gotten so much. It's gotten so bad from the days whenever you would expect the police to come and actually help you out, or help you change a flat tire, or call you because your kid was throwing rocks at the neighbor's windows, and now you got to fix them. You know what I mean? Like, it's the slope. We're on the splashdown zone. We're not on the ski slope anymore. We're hitting the trees at the bottom of the mountain.
I think we talk about this almost every week, that we don't need law enforcement officers. We need peace officers, to just kind of help keep things together. But it seems that they don't really have any incentive to keep things together these days. I mean, it's the war on drugs, and I have no idea why. Right here it says that there were 276 officers on duty at the time, and 104 of them were involved in this chase. That's mind-boggling.
Mm-hmm. The thing I don't get is, see, they're justifying the shooting, like it says right above that in the article there, because he had rammed a police car. I'm like, so he tried to play a little bump to pass. What's wrong with that?
There's people chasing him, and that they have guns.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a history.
Too. Like, you're chasing me, you got guns, I'm going to ram into you.
I already know you're going to shoot me. I'm at least going to make you work for it.
That's right. I mean, me and my friends used to do that when I was younger. I mean, we did that when we first got our first cars. A little hillbilly action, drive down the street, ram into each other. Why not? It's fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, they talk about how, command failed and communications failed and systems failed. No, the government failed, and the police force failed to protect anybody but themselves. They use the excuse of, well, I have a family to go home to at the end of the night. It's like, well, you chose your occupation. If you don't want to have anybody shooting at you because you're being involved with possibly a criminal activity, and the person has a gun, that it does not justify the fact that you murdered someone, you killed them. Whatever happened to thou shalt not kill. Not that I'm a religious person, but you don't kill people. Well, unless the government pays you to do it, then it's okay. Then you can go home at the end of the night because you got paid to do it by the government, who steals money from people.
No, I agree with that completely. I'm not religious at all either, but to take another person's life, I mean, the only reason I would ever justify that is if you really, truly had to protect your own life and they were going to take yours. And that's about the only time I would justify taking anyone's life.
Yeah, and it seems like the smallest flinch is suddenly, I was in fear for my life. Mm-hmm. When their life really wasn't in danger at the time. It's not like if you're standing in front of the car or, kind of put yourself in the way of, you're essentially putting your own life in.
Yeah, you just jeopardized your own life, your own fault there. That was your bad. He wasn't trying to kill you. You put yourself in the way of him doing something.
Yeah, the responsibility of the police officer is to bring someone to justice, not administer it. You're supposed to bring them to a court of law where, they say this person is actually guilty. They're administering justice themselves by, pulling their firearm and firing 137 times at two people. 137 is a lot of bullets. That's reloading. If you shoot more than your magazine's worth of ammo, and you continue to shoot, at what point is it just, war? You've declared essentially a little mini war on these two people who, don't even have a gun.
Yeah, no, it sounds more like they're just doing it to have fun. It's you get into that rush and you're having fun shooting, and let's reload and keep shooting.
One thing that it's really nice about having the chat. Anthony Antonello was talking about. There's a guy named Roland Carnaby. He was a CIA whistleblower killed by police live on TV. Just YouTube it. Go on Roland Carnaby, CIA whistleblower, and you're going to see a video of a person being killed. And what do you think the accountability level was for the officers? You know, it was in the line of duty. You know, I had to save myself.
It's always justified.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. You finished. I was going to move on to the next article. What you got, Mark? Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say you have the police essentially investigating themselves, and we have found ourselves to be have done no wrong. You know, obviously, I'm not gonna have my brother tell my neighbor what's in my bedroom. You know, the kids don't do that. It's not how it works. But unless you work for the government, you don't get the opportunity to investigate yourself or your loved ones or your family. You know, you have to be, you know, some impartial judge who also gets paid by stolen money.
Yeah, no, it reminds me of when they investigate themselves. It reminds me of having like a young child that has learned how to get his way and get around things, and asking him to investigate himself.
Yeah.
Well, of course he's gonna lie. Why would he get himself in trouble?
Yeah. Before we go to the next article, I do want to get the call-in line out again. I always forget about it. We always get rolling here, but don't forget to add our guys on Skype, FPRN Radio Live, and 567-314-9296 is the call-in line. And speaking of which, it sounds like we have a caller there now. It's Joseph from Nevada.
Yeah, how you doing, guys?
Good. How are you doing, Joseph?
Good. Yeah, Joe's fine. Yeah, this is Joe from Line of Fire Radio.
I did not. I was like, Nevada. This has got to be Joe. But hey, what's up, brother? How are we, man? Thanks for calling.
Good, man. I just wanted to give a quick call and congratulate you guys on the show. I didn't catch it live. I caught about the last 15 or 20 minutes of it last week, and then it was too late to call in, and you guys were starting to wind down. So I listened to the archives. You guys did a great job, and you know, I just wanted to let you know, man, you know, your show's the bomb, and I'm sure it'll explode with listeners, and I'd rather listen to you than shop for fertilizer at Home Depot.
Well, awesome. Thanks, man.
Wow, so, that really means a lot.
Yeah, and that's I mean, that's coming from the heart, and like I said, I wanted to catch the entire show live last week, and I couldn't do it. So this week was a little different on the schedule, and I just wanted to personally welcome you guys aboard, you know, to the FPRN Radio Network. And you know, it's always good to have good shows. I listened to part of Anthony's today and caught a little bit of Tom Brown, so I had some time. And I just think you guys are you're going to really be good. You're going to be a hit, man. You really are. You guys are real laid back. You're just bringing up the facts. You're not wearing tinfoil hats. You're just bringing it out as it comes, you know, and speaking the truth. And I think that there's a lot of stuff that needs to be exposed, you know, with the abuse that's happening right now in law enforcement. I mean, I got cop friends that are even saying the same stuff, you know.
Yeah, and that's
even they're getting a little fed up with it, you know, because the fish rots them the head down, you know.
Yeah, I know that you do. You know, you run the Line of Fire LLC out in Vegas, and I know that I know where you stand on things. You know, I listen to the show, mostly, you know, archives, but I know that you do a lot of training and you do a lot of work with some police officers, and it's really hard to sit here and think, you know, that there's not any good ones out there, you know, because it just seems like you hear the bad stuff. But I know that that you shoot them straight, no pun intended, and you hear some things that are encouraging. So we know that they're out there, man. Keep spreading the word, and you know, let those guys know. You know, CopBlock.org has I think it's CopBlock.org/Welcome
Leos.
Welcome Leos. That's it. So, dude, spread the word, brothers. Please let them know, and you know, we welcome them to call in too. And you know, we don't have to use names and stuff like that, but you know, if Bart Simpson or Osama bin Laden calls in and just talks and you know, gives us a little bit of insight, you know, we appreciate it, and you know, helps us to spread the message, or you know, tell us other ways we can do it, man. Rock and roll. Al Akbar.
Yeah, and you know what? I've got several elite buddies that are on my Facebook page, and they listen to the show on you know, they listen to my show, And the thing is that sometimes they get a little apprehensive about calling in. I've had some other buddies of mine on my show call in, and just on like generic topics and stuff like that. But it depends on how they want to be portrayed out there, because you know what, even now people's voices can be recognized. And if somebody happens to stumble on the show or something like that, and they're saying something derogatory, I'm not saying I don't have any Leo friends that will call in. I'm just saying I can kind of think like, what's going through their minds, But, excuse me, as far as myself talking to my Leo buddies, I can tell you that, I got a couple of buddies, man, that left the department early with like 20 years on. They could have easily went another 5 or another 10 years and put 30 years in, or maybe even 35. And these are not old guys either. I mean, these guys that are that retired after 20 years are retiring in their late 40s. And the reason being is because they just didn't like the way things were being run. They didn't like the way the department was going. The whole kumbaya, the whole community relation thing, which is fine. But they saw the douchebaggery. Coming down the tunnel, they saw the light, and it certainly wasn't a train, and, I'm sorry, it certainly wasn't, it wasn't the sunshine, it was the train that was coming. But the bottom line is I know several guys, at least 3, that I've known for years and years and years that got out early. And, they just didn't want to take it anymore because they couldn't be real cops. They wanted them to be robots. They wanted them to be, pre-programmed. And these are guys that used to work the streets and just, they knew who the good guys were, they knew who the bad guys were, and they would jump over the good guys to get to the real bad guys. But now, in a lot of departments, man, what they're doing is they're programming their officers, as to where everybody's suspect. It doesn't matter who it is. Everybody's a bad guy. Look at New Orleans with that old lady. What was she, 76, 78 years old? She had an unloaded revolver. 250-pound goon comes in and tackles her and, breaks her ribs and fractures this and that, after Katrina. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like, everybody is suspect now, and that's what they put into their heads. And
we're constantly hearing stories of Leos getting out early. Recently, just on the Cop Block Facebook page, kind of the one that a lot of the admins and whatnot we discuss stuff on. Somebody came on is like, I have a Leo friend who is about to hold a press conference right now and essentially resign, and was like, okay, how do we make sure that we can keep this person protected, because he's about to pretty much drop a bombshell where people don't know it's coming, that type of thing. So I know it's kind of one of the things that Cop Block is lacking at the moment, is just literature on how to get out, because it's such a difficult thing. And when people are leaving early because they see what's going on in their department and whatnot, it can be dangerous, because they're essentially putting their life at risk in some departments, depending on how much they know and whatnot. So I know it's one of those difficult things to even leave.
And you know what? They're replacing them. Not all. I got a buddy of mine in the academy right now, and the thing is that you get these guys that are seasoned, these guys that work the streets, the guys that really know. They just know how to work. Their information. Like I said, they know who the good guys and the bad guys are. And now all of a sudden they're being overridden by some sergeant or some lieutenant or, in some cases the captain. And, their decisions, which are working, and, their tactics are working with the public. And they're being overridden, and they're losing faith in, even the bad guys are losing faith in the cops. And believe it, there's bad guys that know that, hey, look, man, I'm a criminal. This is what I do for a living. I've been playing cops and robbers. Cops have been chasing me since I was a kid. And they know that, hey, if the cop gets him, it's like, okay, Bob, Officer Bob, you got me. Take me to jail. It's not like it'll be my first trip, But the thing is now they're losing confidence in the cops, and the ones that are being replaced, that are replacing the seasoned officers, I don't know if they're ever going to get to that point where the seasoned officers, are or were when they left. You know, and that's like this new blood is coming in, and it's like this whole paramilitary thing, you know, and it's scaring a lot of people. And I mean, when you got Leos, and when you got law enforcement officer buddies that are telling you, man, I'm scared about who they're letting in now, you know, and I'm glad I got out, because even working with those guys to scare me, you know.
Well, thanks for calling in. We actually have to head to break. After the break, I'm sure we're going to be talking more about accountability and the lack thereof. So you're listening to the Cop Block Radio Show on FPRN.
Mr. President, members of Congress, you've been making a lot of noise about taking our guns away. But you might want to review history. 1835, Gonzales, Texas Territory. The authorities wanted to confiscate the big gun that protected that colony. You know what the people said? Come and take it. Because they were willing to fight for their freedom and their guns. So are we.
Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but I warn you, you'll have to pry it from my cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line. If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it.
One shot at a time. Just like Gonzales, we're keeping our guns.
Hello, fellow patriots. This is Joseph Nazari, Director of Training Operations with Line of Fire, LLC, Professional Firearms Training Group, located in Las Vegas, Nevada. The fact that you're listening to this show is evidence to me that you are a true patriot and you do value your freedoms. As all patriots know, with freedom comes responsibility, and if you own a firearm, training should be an integral part of your personal defense profile. If you're considering quality firearms training, Line of Fire LLC should be your first choice. We teach all types of firearms training for all types of individuals, from the novice to the most advanced shooters. At Line of Fire LLC, we have a course for you. Please, feel free to call us today at 702-242-8288. We look forward to speaking with you soon. Once again, that's Line of Fire LLC, 702-242-8288.
In every age, a technology is created that upends the foundations of society. The wheel, the printing press, the internet. Now, in a world sliding into financial chaos, a new technology is changing the way monetary systems work around the world. It is called Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a new form of money, controlled not by banks, governments, or corporations, but through mutual commerce between free individuals. To learn more, visit weusecoins.com.
Talk about a wake-up call. I was paying for all the doctor's visits, insurance premiums, and medical costs out of pocket. All these expenses were keeping me from living the carefree lifestyle that I wanted. Then the government told me about Obamacare. Now with Obamacare, I don't worry about my health care. I eat whatever I want, whenever I want. I get all my prescription drugs for free, and there's no more coverage gap. I no longer need to worry about pre-existing conditions. We can see any doctor whenever we want for any reason, and so can everyone else.
Obamacare is not for everyone, like Congressman. If you are already healthy, do not use Obamacare, as you will see your premiums go up. If you are a sick person, do not use Obamacare, as you will see your premiums go up. Many people on Obamacare may experience longer wait times and fewer doctors, and denial of your treatment of choice. If you are faced with a healthcare situation, you may be denied treatment through government rationing.
Obamacare even covers my kids up to age 26.
If you experience a recession lasting more than 4 years, stop taking Obamacare and contact a travel agent to move to the Bahamas or New Zealand.
And the best thing is that Obamacare is free.
Obamacare is not free. Obamacare will increase the national debt by $863 billion in 10 years. Your taxes will go up $569 billion by 2019. If you see a major jump in your premiums, you should opt out of Obamacare immediately. Opting out of Obamacare is illegal and will incur major fines and penalties unless you are a union member who received a special waiver from the Obama administration. Obama is not responsible for the negative effects on the economy, your pocketbook, your freedoms, or your health.
Obama solved all my problems.
Obamacare. Live your carefree lifestyle.
You have reached the 911 emergency service. All operators are busy.
Oh God, please help me. He's got a knife.
You have reached the 911 emergency service. All operators are busy. Please stay on the line for the next available emergency operator. You have reached the 911 emergency service. All operators are busy. Please stay on.
911 operator, what's your emergency, please? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Last year in the United States, thousands and thousands of 911 calls went unanswered. And if you call from a cell phone, there's no way to pinpoint where you are. Yet politicians like Dianne Feinstein call for more gun control. We have one question. Why do these politicians have armed bodyguards? Can't they just call 911?
CopBlock Radio Show on FPRN and syndicated across the interwebs. Before the break, we were talking to Joe Nazari from the Line of Fire radio show. They're on at 6 p.m. on Saturdays, though they used to be on this time slot. So if you're tuning in late expecting them, that's where they are now.
Yeah, I think that slot works for them a little bit better. You know, a lot of the shows on the network are, you know, pretty much everybody from, you know, the States listens to it. But I know that those guys have, you know, with Line of Fire and Mark's Adventures Overseas, those guys have a more, you know, diverse audience. So, you know, Saturday nights from 6 to 9 is a time slot that works for them. You know, I listened in and there was, oh man, they actually had a lot. They had more live listeners than I had seen in a while. It was really cool. You know, the live chat with those guys to talk, and I'm sitting there and I'm talking and saying things, and these guys are just, you know, spitting it right back out and, you know, calling it like they see it. It was awesome, man.
Yeah, I unfortunately was in the middle of my move, driving 800 miles, so I couldn't listen in at the time, unfortunately. But I'll try to get it Saturday.
Yeah, you could have stopped in New York and, you know, pulled up to the Starbucks and just hung out there for the free Wi-Fi and listened.
Well, actually, all the rest stops along the way have free Wi-Fi now.
Really? That's pretty
cool.
cool.
They better, because you're paying freaking $13 to drive on Route 90.
Well, it's got free Wi-Fi there so that the NSA can spy on you while you're sitting there.
That way they can track all of your movements.
That's right. Now, my only question was that Joe called in and said that he would prefer to be talking to us than buying fertilizer.
Hey, I mean, you know, if you get that stuff by the truckload, you save a lot of money.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, you got to grow all that corn so you can get freedom by raising the beef. Those are all keywords.
I was thinking more along the lines of terrorism.
I feel like we should have like a word of the day. You know, what's the anti-freedom NSA trigger word of the day? And we should try to involve that in as much conversation as we could.
Well, we can just say freedom.
Constitution.
All the time. I love that. That's a beautiful idea.
Bugs Bunny. All right, so you want to talk about this poor kid from Detroit?
Yeah, so we had talked about it in the past, and it basically hit the headlines again because the trial in Detroit about the 7-year-old who was killed in a raid that was actually being covered by the TV show The First 48. The trial of Joseph Weekley has been declared a mistrial by the judge this week. I saw this on, I know I've mentioned it a few times, but I subscribe to the law officer page on Facebook, and you get some very interesting insight onto the mind of some of these Leos out there. So
they're not afraid to, you know, say whatever they want. It's whenever you have that security blanket of, that nice blue and black blanket. You just say what you want, man. They don't care.
I know they're constantly a lot of the comments on this particular story were like, "Well, you weren't there," da 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 da, as if that somehow justifies shooting a 7-year-old girl. Is there any appropriate time to shoot a 7-year-old girl ever?
Was that the one that was on the couch beside her grandmother?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still stewing. I feel like
you're gonna have a lot of that.
I'll have to start drinking.
So yeah, it's been declared a mistrial. So we'll see if he gets retried. The jury sent notes back to the judge saying that they would not be able to come to a verdict on this particular case, which is unfortunate. That is actually after the 3 days of deliberations. I'm not sure how they could possibly spend 3 days on this.
Well, the way I look at it, it's better than them just being like, "Oh, he was innocent." At least they had a good argument going and couldn't decide what they were doing.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming there were some people that, well, if it was a mistrial, it had to have been that some people were saying guilty and some people were saying not guilty, and no one was going to budge at wherever they were at that point. So
yeah, I think that, if you remember back to this one that we were talking about with this kid with the NRA shirt on, and in the article they pretty much spelled it out that like everybody or like the teacher, the police officer, the DA, they're pretty much at the point where they're not willing to admit that they're wrong. And I think that's kind of what it's in a way has gotten to with, they're calling it a mistrial, or say it would be a mistrial, because they know that there's people who aren't willing to stand up for what's right. There's people who are willing to just, get along to go along, and well, they're cops and they have a tough job, and they're not going to just actually sit down and think about the fact that a police officer shot a child, and that's wrong. You could kill a 7-year-old child with your bare hands. I don't care how big of a person you are. You could do it. And you don't need a gun to do it. And instead, this person used their gun. And I think that they understand that, there's some people who are just will never accept and are never going to admit. And even if they do accept it, they might not admit it that they were wrong.
And just because you're getting paid by the government doesn't absolve you from personal responsibility for your own actions, regardless if you're under their direction or not.
Yeah, you have. They just, one thing that has never sat right with me is if you Google police officers' Bill of Rights, and people can't grant other people rights. You're just born with them. They just happen. That's just how it is. You have a right because you're alive. And that if you read the police officer's Bill of Rights, you'll I kind of threw up in my mouth a little bit whenever I read it. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And if you go and you a lot of it has to do with interrogation and stuff like that, and you read it, you're like, wow, these guys have it made. It's impossible to convict any police officer of any wrongdoing.
Oops, sorry, I have my mic muted. Yeah, if you want to, well, I guess you seem to be stewing at all times. But if you want to stew more, you should subscribe to that page because you'll probably pop a blood vessel at that point.
Oh man, I'd love to get away because I hate Facebook. It's so stupid. And I don't care that you're at the park having playtime with your kid, and I got tired of it, man. I want to get away from it, and I don't think that it's even worse now that I know the NSA's on it. If we're all going to be on lists, at least we'll all be having fun in our detention cell or centers together, hopefully.
Yeah, only the fun people go there.
Yeah, Bugs Bunny.
Well, hey, at least they get to see all your awesome pictures of the fish you catch.
I've been known. I'm gonna have to. My guppies. I'm gonna have to. That's Chris Cantwell. We were talking a little bit before the show, and it's you have to have a sense of humor about how tragic and how much BS is going on around the country. And I know there was a bunch of people that went out and did these great videos, and in some states it was probably illegal what they were doing. I'm not saying it was wrong. I'm just saying that it was against maybe some words that are on a piece of paper that some guy with a gun will enforce. But, there's, laws against recording people without, permission or whatever. But anyway, people will call up to the NSA and let them know, hey, I can't figure out my Gmail password. Do you guys think you could give it to me? And the people on the other end were just so clueless and they're so stupid that they just didn't understand what was happening to them. They didn't get it. Like, they're just zombies, man. Like, the zombie apocalypse is here. It's happening. I'm excited.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if the zombie apocalypse is here, I'm excited about it, man. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it was kind of that meme that was going around that, oh, man, I'm so bummed my hard drive crashed and the NSA won't give me the backup.
Now, do you have any of those the links to those videos?
I know if you go to Chris Camp, the one that just pops out, and I don't know, these guys are experimenting with explosives, pipe bombs and detonators over here in the studios. They're making noise over there, but if you go to Chris Cantwell, who I'm a huge fan of, he's a great guy, really good activist. He also supports CopBlock, and he actually has some CopBlock videos. But check out Chris Cantwell on YouTube and type in NSA, I think it's Gmail password. And he just, calls him up. He's like, hey, man, I forgot my Gmail password. You think you can hook me up? I can't seem to get in. But just type in NSA passwords or NSA whatever, and there's a ton of them. They're really good.
Yeah, I'm hoping I run into him at some point because I think he actually lives in the next town over from where I am now in New Hampshire. So
he's living in New York because
he moved?
Yeah, I got a chance to interview him. If you guys, I don't know if you guys caught it or not. He was on one of the last 2 or 3 Harrisburg Liberty Alliance shows that I did, and he came on, Skyped in, and man, he's so good. He's so funny, and he's such a sarcastic smart ass. But the guy's right, he does a lot of research. He was at Anarchy in the NYC. He's gonna be at PorkFest. I saw that he said he was, packing his bags and he's headed up to PorkFest. So if you get the opportunity to go to PorkFest at all, he will be there. And I think that, yeah, there was a comedy thing because he's a comedian. There was a comedy, a stand-up night, but he missed it. So he'll be there this weekend. Unfortunately, I will not be in attendance.
Yeah, it's kind of, unfortunately, throughout all the move, I had to use a bunch of vacation time and can't get up to PorkFest, which is going on in northern New Hampshire right now. It's kind of a bit of a haul, so I probably won't be able to make it up, unfortunately. But so I dropped off the line because my laptop overheated. So I didn't. I missed 5 minutes of the show. Did you guys talk about the guy who was shot in L.A. or during the Chris Dorner incident?
No, we didn't get to that.
We were talking to Joe, man. We were hanging out with Joe Nazari. We got one co-host drops out. We got another one shows right up. That's how.
Well,
it's
that's
family.
good.
FPRN, man, it's family. We roll deep.
Adam, you got that
one. Little Bugs Bunny.
What's up, Doc?
Anyway, are we gonna talk about this poor white kid?
Yeah, we'll get here. Let's go on to that subject here. So we've got the man. I don't know if you guys all remember the Chris Dorner manhunt that was ridiculous and turned into a giant police state down there. Basically, the man who was shot by the police in a case of mistaken identity during the manhunt for ex-LAPD officer Chris Dorner.
And we're not talking about the 2 ladies delivering papers.
The 2 small
ladies. This wasn't the 2 ladies. This was another gentleman. This is more of their rampages shooting at random people.
Shots fired.
The totally different type of vehicle, wrong color, and let's just open fire on it. So this gentleman is filing a lawsuit for excessive force against the officers involved in the shooting. Basically, this gentleman, David, was on his way to the beach for an early morning surf session on February 7th when the police fired at his Honda truck without any warning whatsoever. Now, this gentleman is 38 years old, white, 6 foot tall, and was mistaken somehow for Chris Dorner, who is, a black man, 6'2", at 270 pounds. So we're talking about a big boy compared to a skinny, tall white guy.
Easily confused whenever you're already in a,
you're all pumped up and looking for
all
a next
red.
top to shoot.
When you just got done checking yourself out in the mirror with no clothes on, and you got your gun strapped on now, and you're gonna go stop crime.
It's right. Gonna shoot that guy that's letting everyone know about our corruption.
Yeah, that whistleblower.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, what?
That's right.
Yeah, we don't use excessive force. Oh, let's go use some excessive force to show that we don't use excessive force.
It's right. Let's just randomly open fire on people.
Did you see the T-shirt of the? It was like a bunch of jackboots in their riot gear, and they were like, all holding their nightsticks, and it just says, "We get up early to beat the crowds."
Yeah, that was a T-shirt for the DNC last year, I believe, or it might have been for the RNC because they wanted to beat the protesters, the liberal protesters or whatever.
The worst part about it is it was probably the cops that were selling them, and they meant it.
No, it was the cops who made it and were wearing them.
Oh, they were literally. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, there must have been like a remake that I saw that you could buy like as a joke, but these were serious.
Yeah, these were serious at the time. Yeah.
Oh, man. That's what happens. You can get away with whatever you want.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And this lawsuit comes after the fact of the other settlement that was paid out to the other two women that were delivering newspapers after they got $4.2 million in that settlement.
Now, that settlement that was they had their vehicle was totaled, and now did they ever receive a vehicle? Because I know there was an issue that the police were going to give them a new vehicle with the caveat that they had to pay the taxes on it.
Yeah, no, they ended up not taking that vehicle. That was the whole huge ordeal that happened there. Yeah, they wanted to give them a truck, but make them pay the sales tax on it.
Yeah, and on top of that, they wouldn't seek any more damages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was pushed aside, and they ended up getting $4.2 million instead.
I want to say good for them, but that it should have been, this should not come from the government. This should be something that the individuals are held responsible for their own actions, regardless of what their occupation is. The taxpayers.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, I know. The taxpayers paid this, so they stole money and then they gave it back to somebody. So it's kind of like a good for them, but bad for everybody else at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what we were talking about right at the beginning of the show. It's kind of the education to show this is what you are paying for. And not only are you paying for this crappy service and them doing this to other people, you are paying for their mistakes when they screw up as well.
And if you don't wish to pay, you will be put in a cage.
It's just kind of one big criminal enterprise all around, unfortunately.
It's like a giant Bugs Bunny rabbit.
I can't believe that the guys haven't chimed in yet with the 9/11 from Lois Griffin. Hint, hint.
Hint, hint. That's funny. I actually watched that with my kids the other day, and we were laughing so hard.
You were watching The Family Guy with your kids?
Yeah, watching that episode, too, with the whole, when she becomes mayor and she's all 9/11.
Yeah. I actually got to the point where I stopped watching Family Guy because, it would come on, and I would recite all the great one-liners, and then I would change the channel because I'd be like, oh, screw this, I'm bored now.
We just watch on
a lot.
Because that's what Jesus wants. 9/11 was bad.
I agree with that.
God, I can't believe how easy this is.
Mrs. Griffin, what are your plans for cleaning up our environment?
9/11.
Mrs. Griffin, what about our traffic problem?
9/11.
It never gets old.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't.
So we go to, what was the other article that you wanted to talk about, Eric? I know there was the other one about was he paraplegic?
Oh, that was the one you put up, I believe. But yeah, there was the
gentleman with a pen.
Yeah, so there's a person in a wheelchair who is paraplegic. They can move their arms, but they have no ability to get up out of the wheelchair that they're in and physically attack someone. So apparently,
he was a double amputee, so he didn't.
Oh, he's
even have
double
legs.
amputee. I'm sorry, I'm trying to
He
reread
couldn't
this
even
quick.
tried if he wanted to.
I just blew this one. So anyway, the guy's in the chair, and there's two officers that are speaking with him, and I guess he had a pen in his hand, and he must have made a furtive movement or insinuated something, and this person was killed by one of the police officers. So I don't understand how much clearer it could get to. I mean, it would have to be a person with no arms and no legs who gets killed to make people's eyes just open up to the fact that it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what your job is, doesn't matter what color your skin is, that you have that 8 times more likely to be killed by a police officer than a terrorist, according to FBI statistics. It could be you, and it could be no fault of your own that you get caught up in a tragic event where you lose your life and somebody gets paid to kill you, and then they go home and they get paid leave until they come back because they've been found of no wrongdoing.
Yeah, I mean, it's so ridiculous that it would come to this. It's not very hard to get out of the way of a paraplegic swinging a pen. You take a step back and you're in the clear.
Yeah.
I have no idea why you have to, quote unquote, neutralize the threat. All you have to do is step back and get out of the threat.
Yeah, it's almost like whenever you were in elementary school, there was always the one kid that was bigger and the one kid that was littler, and he would the big guy would put his hand on the kid's forehead and hold him back so he couldn't punch him. It's like the person has no opportunity to hurt you if you're not within that reach. Is he going to wheel over to you? I'm pretty sure that you could just step out of the way. And I guess they took all the evidence and they put it in front of a grand jury, and the grand jury they just said that they declined to bring any criminal charges against two guys in costumes. It's once again another one of those examples, if you think about it, of why not just at least take it to trial? They didn't even get to the point where they're having a trial. The grand jury was full of people who believe in a system where police are allowed to take the life of another person, even a person with no legs, and get away with it.
Now, the crazier part, I remember this story because I think we talked about it before, was the fact that this gentleman that was in a wheelchair with no legs, with his pen, had been notorious for having outbreaks like this and having mental issues and freaking out and threatening people. So, I mean, this was not like an uncommon thing for this gentleman to do. I mean, this was the police had showed up before, calmed him down, he was always fine, but somehow in this circumstance, he was more of a threat than before?
I mean, it's a frickin' pen. It doesn't matter what his history is or what he's yelling. He is of no threat to anybody who can take a step back.
And he's in a home. I mean, if I remember correctly, he was in some sort of home with other people. I mean, this is obviously a gentleman that's been placed here because he has issues that obviously probably isn't a threat to you, especially when you have a gun.
Yeah,
and even then, why do you need to use that force against him? I mean, he's obviously in a wheelchair.
But yeah, I mean, why did the people at this facility even have to bring the police in to begin with? So that's just kind of negligent on their part to bring the police in to, bring up the escalate the situation. Anyways, we gotta take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about more horrible threat assessment by police officers. You're listening to the Cop Block Radio Show on FPRN.
Tired of living in a violent society? If every citizen was armed, no one would be dumb enough to shoot people. It's exactly the ethos our founding fathers had when they wrote the Constitution and then changed it, which is what makes it sacred now. Come mingle with safety-minded people like you at the Liberty City Gun Club. Our nation is still the world leader in one thing: armaments. Nothing says excitement like a night out with a small caliber semi-automatic weapon. Get social at the Liberty City Gun Club.
Hi, I'm Trevor Moore. Due to the recent revelations that in order to fight terrorism, the NSA has been using a secret court order to spy on every single Verizon and AT&T customer, Americans have become outraged and concerned about their rights to privacy. But along with that concern comes a feeling of hopelessness. I mean, what can we do? Vote in new leaders? Well, the problem is that during an election, each candidate pretends to not be an asshole. Then when they get the job, they reveal that they've actually been a complete asshole this entire time. No, elections are of no use. The only way to fight back against our country's excessive wiretapping and data mining is to make it irrelevant. That's why we're launching Operation Everyone Talk Like a Terrorist all the time. If we all openly discuss terrorist plots in each of our phone conversations, then eavesdropping on those phone conversations becomes pointless. It's simple. We just need to work it into our daily vernacular. For example, instead of saying, "I love you," you could describe a terror attack. The larger the scale, the more you love the person.
Hi, Mom. I just got out of school. Can you pick me up?
I'll be there in 15 minutes. I'm going to use a truck bomb to blow up the Brooklyn Bridge.
I'm mailing anthrax to Piers to Morgan.
Or nonsense about God's will being great could mean affirmative.
Hey, man, they have a 7:30 show, and do you think you can make it in time?
God is merciful and his love is unchanging. Did you already get me a ticket?
And those are just a few examples. You can make up your own. Have fun with it. But it's time for us to stand up and protect our rights. Because those assholes aren't going to.
Hi, I'm Chuck Norris, a black belt patriot. If some thug breaks into my home, I could use my roundhouse kick, but I'd prefer he look down the barrel of my gun. And millions of other law-abiding families also rely on their Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. Some politicians say they support your rights, but unfortunately, their voting records say otherwise. Protect your rights on Election Day. Check the candidates' records and see who stood up for your families and who protected the criminals. I'm Chuck Norris, and I approve this message.
Just let them try and outlaw those guns.
Well, yeah, it's getting tough out there. Yeah, no doubt. I work in home invasions, mostly. Some murder, occasional rape, if she's hot, or really bitchy. And I'm a huge advocate of gun control, absolutely. Every time I kick in a door or smash a window, I face the possibility of being shot and killed. Allowing citizens to own guns creates a hostile work environment for me and my associates. No one should have to work under those conditions. I say make them all illegal, absolutely. I mean, I break the law for a living. I'm a professional, so it doesn't really bother me. No doubt. No doubt.
Your local violent criminals work hard and put their lives on the line every time they attempt to murder, rape, abduct, or assault a member of the citizenry. They desperately need your help. With your support, there may finally come a day when a violent criminal can have his way with you or someone you love without the fear, anxiety, and stress caused by knowing there's a possibility his victim might be armed. Please show your support by voting for stronger anti-gun legislation because criminals prefer unarmed citizens.
Not many men know what their life's worth. I do. That's what they took from me. And that's what I was gonna get back.
I wrote the story how the glory was snatched from Jimmy Biscuit. Just 19 stacking of cream from earning digits and burning bridges.
We're back on the Cop Block Radio Show on FTRN and syndicated across the interwebs. You know, we're helping you in the detection and invasion of assault team communications. Just remember that.
You lost
never
me
gonna...
on that one.
What?
I said you lost me on that one.
I'm just going to continue to have fun with this freaking keyword list.
I think you're just making shit up.
They're all right next to each other, actually.
Pulling stuff off the list.
What's up, Doc?
So we were talking before the break. Actually, I don't remember what we were talking before the break.
So the guy who was, a double amputee who was shot and killed, I can't believe that they wouldn't even let it go to trial just for use of excessive force. Here's someone who, a God-fearing, tax-paying American patriot, you have to protect and take care of your soldiers whenever they come home. And here's an example of a person. I can't remember. Was this dude, was he a soldier or he was just, one of those, he already had some pre-existing, issues. But anyway, they wouldn't even consider excessive force. How can using a gun against a guy who doesn't have any legs and he has a pen, how can that not be just excessive force in any way, shape, or form? It's beyond me. I'll never understand that.
It's horrible threat assessment. I mean, that's what it comes down to. We see these all the time. They just cannot assess actual threats.
Now, it would be my understanding that there's, some sort of training that talks to officers, and this is what you have to feel this way, and this is what you have to feel that way. But so where do you think that this trigger happy mentality comes from? How do you think it got that way?
I think my thought is the fact that they're trained to be afraid of us all, and that all of us are a threat to them, and that they should be scared of us.
They should be scared of us.
Well, they should.
I kind of, I jokingly mean that, because they should be scared of us because, not because, we're big and tough behind the radio, but, we understand what's going on.
Well, in a sense, they should be afraid of us, but in a respectful way. The fact that we the people, have the power, but not in a way where they should be afraid like we're going to kill them at all times.
Hell no, we're just trying to get them fired.
Right. It's not they should be afraid of us in a physical sense. Yes. We're no threat to them in causing them physical harm, yet they always think that we are. Yeah. Is that because a lot of the police officers that are starting nowadays are ex-military? Is it part of that?
I think that there has been, if you look at the numbers with the increase of, violent acts committed by police officers towards the public, I think that there's been, an increase in the past 10 to 11 years. But I know that, sometimes they'll talk about, Rodney King and how, if they talk about how, African Americans they're used to seeing that because, they've been, victims of things, some of my African American friends, they call it DWB. I'm like, what's that? Driving while black. They're targeted and they get pulled over more. The police are more aggressive with them, and I think that it's just now coming to, and just nobody's being discriminated against as much anymore. It doesn't matter who you are because you have people who are possibly trained and in active military techniques. They're being trained to go overseas, kick doors in, and kill people. Okay, that guy had an AK-47. Okay, that guy didn't, but we killed him. So let's, like Dave Chappelle, sprinkle the crack dust on the guy and walk away.
I don't know. I think a lot of it is it's too easy to become a police officer. The screening process, everything like that. So I think I'm not going to say all, but I think that there's a lot of people that are becoming police officers because they were bullied in school, in our awesome indoctrination systems we have, picked on in school. They always felt like cowards, couldn't do anything, couldn't defend themselves. Now they have an opportunity to become a gentleman with a costume and a badge and a gun, and they get to have this huge power trip and rule over all these people and be like, "Ooh, I am the boss, and I get to tell you everything to do." And they get that, absolute power corrupts all. It becomes this awesome high that they get to be able to stand over everyone and make everyone cower to them. And it's a great feeling, but it's wrong in a sense that that's not the way that you should be trying to get that feeling.
Or do we also have the flip side of the coin where they were the bullies in school?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is the ultimate job for somebody who was always a bully.
That also. But those are the bullies most of the time. When you had a bully like that bully was a bully because they knew how to be a bully. It wasn't because they had a gun. They didn't need the gun to be a bully. I think a lot of the times once you give them a gun, or even the gentleman that was the bully in the school already knows that feeling and doesn't abuse it as horribly as the gentleman that never had it and now all of a sudden has it. I think there's a difference there. Most of the time the bully in school only went to a certain extent. I mean, he would bully, he knew how to do it properly, and then you get these guys that come in that were bullied, and they have all this power, they don't know what to do with it, and it just overwhelms them, and then they become trigger happy and just start shooting because they're like, oh, I don't know what to do with all this power.
I'm a cop, and you will respect my authority.
That was
pretty much, yeah. I know, it's kind of funny because I found out that one of the guys I went to high school with is now a cop in the town that I'm residing in. So I'm sure I'm going to run into him soon enough. But when he was in training, actually, he was doing a ride along, and there was a car accident in front of my house. And I was out there. My cousin was out there, who was also in the same class as I was. So we all knew him, and he totally ignored us the entire time, like we didn't exist. It's like, dude, we just graduated high school with you 2 years ago. You know who we are. We've been going to school together since 6th grade. And I have no idea what his complex was at the time, but he's like, oh, I'm better than you. I'm not even going to acknowledge that you're here.
Yeah.
Now, was he like regular kid in school, or bullied, or bullier, or?
No, he was just I'm hot shit, and I'm better than everybody type of deal.
Yeah, because the way I look at it, the bullies that were in school were basically they act like bullies until you stand up to them, and then they finally cower down. It's literally, if I ran into a cop, I would prefer him to be the guy that was the bully in school, because you stand up to him, he'll finally stop. The one that was bullied in school won't stop. I mean, that's the one I'm afraid of, because now he has all this power, and I don't know how he's going to react if I stand up to him.
Yeah, we'll see. I guess. I guess back on topic is a lot of the poor ability of assessing the threat and jumping the gun, literally. We had I came across this today. Of course, this happened back in January of 2012. I hadn't even heard of it until I saw it pop up today, because it looks like there's something about the trial going on. I didn't have the whole thing. I just saw the headline. But in Brownsville, Texas, it says police, quote unquote, came in guns blazing and shot a middle school student to death at school. And this particular student was carrying a pellet gun, according to his parents, the claim that they made in court. So this was back in January of 2012, where the assistant principal of the middle school notified the police that the kid had a gun at school. The defendant. So the police are being sued. They arrived at the school and immediately started shooting at the door behind which the young man was standing. The young man had not fired the gun, nor had he tried to shoot anybody, and the defendants did not try to calm down the situation or even talk to him before they started shooting.
They had the opportunity to do what they got in the force to do. I mean that's how I see it. These guys are trained, and they want to be the guy who's the hero, but they don't think about what it actually means to to go through with that. And okay, well now I'm the hero, yeah, and you just killed some kid that was had his whole life ahead of him. And what happened to the days where the police were helpful, like I was talking about earlier? It's like, why don't they talk to the kid and hey man, you're headed down the wrong road. But these are the same people who put people in jail for up to 81 years for smoking a plant that grows in the dirt and selling it to his friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not like they're in a school. I'm assuming it has concrete walls and everything. It's not like they didn't have cover. So I don't even know why they would move forward with this tactic without first even engaging the kid in conversation. Do academies need to spend more time on de-escalation tactics? It sounds like that's what they should be spending their time on, and not tactical training.
Yeah, well, I mean, one thing that whenever you talk about the hiring practices of the police force, I read an article, and I think there was a follow-up article about it, and there was someone that was actually suing the I'm not sure if it was like the state police. They're essentially suing the police academy for discrimination, and part of your entrance exam is there's an IQ test, and this person scored too high. There was a cap that was like, okay, you can't be over, your IQ can't be over this, and they were discriminated against because they were too smart. So, I mean, to me, that's just like a gigantic red flag once again that something here is broken. So they don't want people who are too smart, and their justification was, well, we need people who are going to react and not overanalyze things. And it's like, that right there shows me that you just want zombies, you just want robots. Why don't you just hire some, go get some, Terminators, because basically that's what you've got anyway, except for these people have a heartbeat. And the person lost the case, and it was the judge ruled that it wasn't discrimination because it was across the board. And it was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, you're too smart to be a cop. And some of my interactions with police officers, you know what? I believe it. I don't believe them to be, a superior intellectual person because, I mean, if you think about it, if you were that smart of a person, would you really want to be a cop? It's not. I don't think it's a great job. It's nothing I would choose to do for myself. Even, a security detail, that's not something I would choose to do. But, I don't know. I guess I consider myself smarter than the average bear. But
would it change anything if the avenue that the organization received its money, would that change your mind if it was through a voluntary interaction and not through theft?
As far as something I would choose to do?
Possibly.
No, I'm just not interested in it. There's other things I'm good at. So, people who want to do that, and as long as it's based on a voluntary society where I can say, hey, this is what service I would like you to provide, and this is what I'm willing to pay you to do it. I think that's okay, but it's not something I'm interested in. I don't know. It's not something I would never want to do, and somebody's got to do it, but that's just not me.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be the guy that has to walk around and boss people around.
Yeah,
I just want to be left the hell alone.
Of course, as a person who is being coerced out of their money, this is definitely not the service that I would be voluntarily paying for. If it came down to there no longer being this coercive monopoly that the government has on using force or police services, the current services that I'm receiving, I would not be paying for. And if there was some sort of security agency that I was paying for, I would want them hiring the people who do overanalyze and provide a good service and don't just go straight to resorting to violence to solve the problems to begin with.
Well, it's kind of like what I was saying, I think, last week, is it's basically that whole theory of what I was saying with the I don't pay taxes, I would like to not receive this service.
I wish that worked.
Huh?
I wish that worked.
Yeah, no.
I'm
just waiting to get pulled over or something so I can do it.
No, thank you. No, thank you. You're free to go, officer.
I don't pay for this service. If you could let me leave, please. Thank you.
I wonder how that would go over if you just kind of looked at him like, no, you're free to go.
Well, with the fact that we all know that they don't have high IQs because they're not allowed to have them, they might just get a little confused.
It's like
wait, what?
Now that we played the Family Guy clip, it's like that clip where in Family Guy where the police break up the underage party and they're all drinking booze, and then Peter goes to Lois, look over there, and he says run to the police, and the police run away.
Yeah. It's pretty bad whenever you have people who are I don't know, it must be that like-minded brain that attracts people to a cartoon. But I mean, Family Guy is actually really legit, man. They have some great points, and they do a good job of making fun of some of the bullshit that goes on in not just society but our government.
Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know about you, Eric. Did you? How much do you know about? I mean, obviously, I've read the story, but this was in Ohio. The story about the officer who shot the litter of kittens.
Yeah, I saw that during the week, and I had to take a double take on it. I'm like, really? And then I did look into the story. So it seems that a family took in. They found some stray kittens, it sounds like, and they called animal control, and an animal control officer came out, and I don't know the best way to put this.
It sounds like
basically shot the kittens.
Basically,
Yeah.
no, that's exactly what he did.
It's not basically. That's what he did.
That's exactly what.
Yeah. So this was actually. I'm trying to remember because I do remember this happening. And they interviewed the woman, and she was talking about how her children were watching through the upstairs bedroom, and he this individual, and I can't remember if he was a police officer or if he was like an ASPCA or whatever it is representative, but he told the family that the kitties were going to kitty heaven.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It's like this. Those children have now seen the worst of the worst. Someone who has no regard for public safety because he's discharging a firearm around people, and what about the kids, man? Whenever I was a kid, I didn't have any cats or dogs or anything, but we had animals, and it was like. You have that, bond. You're a little kid, and now you've had some person with a badge and a gun come in and just, destroy something that you had that relationship with. And I can tell you those kids are not going to grow up with a very positive outlook on, calling 911 for help.
Mm-mm. Well, I don't get it is the fact. I mean, this isn't even to the point of back in the day or people still now that grow up on farms and you butcher the animals. This isn't even like that at all. This isn't like, okay, well, this is what we do to eat the animal. This is blatant. These were kittens. They could have been handled in a different way, given away, or it done somewhere else. But no, we just blatantly do it right in front of the children. It's ridiculous. I mean, I don't know about you. I would have removed the kittens if it needed to be done like that. You do it somewhere else. You don't do it in front of the children. They don't need to see that. And you don't be like, oh, they're going to kitty heaven and then blast their heads off. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, there's no reason that he couldn't have taken the box, because it sounds like they were I think they were like 11 weeks old. They're very easy. You could just put them in a box and take them somewhere else, and do one of 100 million things if you just want to maliciously kill these animals. But the fact that he did it right there in front of children in the backyard, that's sad,
with a
man.
firearm.
With a firearm, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they could have been taken somewhere else easily. There was no reason to do it right there.
The Ohio SPCA director was even saying that she assumed that you would be trapping them and taking them to the shelter, so they could either be humanely euthanized there if they ended up being adopted. But he just went ahead and killed the kitties in the backyard. That's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
And it says that he was 15 feet away from the back door of her house, shooting a firearm.
So loud, scaring the children. The children are up in the window, crying and screaming over the gunshots, and then obviously screaming about why is he killing the kitties? I mean, that's ridiculous. Yeah. And it says the homeowner's 4 children are all between the ages of 5 months and 7 years old. So these aren't even like young adults or anything. These are children. Yeah. They don't need to see death like that, especially not at that age.
So to never let a good tragedy go to waste, do you think we at least have a couple converts to that the police aren't looking out for your best interest?
No, they're here to kill your kittens.
Apparently. I mean, I don't think, at this point, I think he has sown plenty of seeds of mistrust into these children when it comes to people with a badge.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. But I mean, this goes to the whole accountability thing, that this officer has been, quote unquote, cleared of any wrongdoing. When a normal person, if they shot a firearm where this particular individual did, they would be going to jail for negligent discharge of a firearm, I'm guessing.
Even if they had a Joe Biden double-barrel shotgun and they fired 2 blasts, they would still be in trouble.
Oh, yeah, even if the kids weren't there. Even if it was the homeowner's property, the homeowner's weapon, they walked back there, did it quietly, humanely, with no one watching. Oh, yeah, they'd be in a cage.
So yeah, that
hypocrisy for you there.
Yeah, and just for being in the clear, I had one last story that the FBI in the past few years has deemed agents faultless in 150 shootings.
Yeah, I don't get that. 150 shootings, they're all perfect, huh?
Yeah, doesn't that always seem to be the case that? Now we have the FBI. We've been talking week after week about Albuquerque and Philadelphia, that for some reason every officer-involved shooting seems to be justified for some reason. Even though everything points to them not being so.
That's because they keep investigating themselves.
Yeah, I know that there's actually a website. I think that they're trying to do a documentary. It was called innocentdown.org or innocentdown.com, and it was a website that was dedicated to the families and of people who were killed by police officers. And I feel like they were doing a movie or something like that. But these are people who haven't been found guilty of anything but being on the wrong end of a barrel of a gun.
Yeah, he is working on a movie, and that is innocentdown.org. So we're out of time for this week. And be sure to check out Line of Fire at 6 o'clock on Saturday, as they've moved to their new time slot. And until next week, this is the Cop Block Radio Show. And remember that badges don't grant extra rights.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that is an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before.
I'm a highway patrol.
control the highway patrol. My hours are long and my pay is low, but I'll do my best to keep you
FPRN lineup of shows. If you'd like to start your own show with FPRN, advertise with us, or donate to the network or to your favorite shows, check out our website at www.fprnradio.com. Thanks for listening to the FPRN lineup of shows. If you'd like to